That's not an R&B song.
Whenever we, and I mean guys that look like me, do anything that's genre bending, that I'm just like, why can't we just be in pop? Why can't it just, you know what I mean? So.
Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron, and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we're going to be talking about music. Artists being placed into genre boxes, style boxes that are often unescapable. And I want to talk about why this happens, who this happens to the most, and how I feel like maybe we could shift this, or how we can allow specifically musicians take into their own and be able to shape shift and go into different spaces and lanes. But it actually really bothers me low-key as an artist myself. Like, I don't think that it's fair, and particularly we're going to be talking about Black artists being confined to R&B and hip-hop spaces, and that being the only lane that they're allowed to thrive and succeed in, right? So we're going to get into this. You will understand what I'm trying to say the more we get into the video. I don't even know what I'm titling this, if I'm being quite honest with you, but we're going to get into it. Please like, comment down below. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Do you have anything to add? Let's chop it up in the comment section. And please hit that subscribe button down below. We are so close to 1.5K. So let's get there, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and clicking on this video. And without further ado, let's just get straight into the commentary. Let's go. This video is mostly going to be based in a perspective talking about artists that I listen to. I listen to a lot of R&B, more so hip hop. I do listen to pop too, but some observations I've made over the years, this discussion on social media about Black artists, right, often being placed into a box. Now, a lot of musicians in general, a lot of artists, but musicians particularly, like, when you start your career, you establish a lane. You're trying to find a sound. You're trying to find a space, right, in which you will be successful. So every artist, regardless of race, whatever, you're kind of aiming to find your lane when you first get into the industry. Because of the consumption of music and the way that people are able to stream, and there's so many accessible artists, and there's so many ways to find new music. Nowadays, you can either, one, become a carbon copy, right, and do what's hot, or two, you can find a way to break away from the crowd and do something slightly different in your own way, or do something completely revolutionary. Now, I listen to a lot of R&B and hip-hop, mostly R&B, and I notice that a Black artist can literally make a pop song, could make a song, honestly, in any genre. But particularly pop, I noticed this. And they do not consider it a pop song, or it'll be considered an R&B song. And I notice this a lot of the times when we are discussing like VMAs and Grammy Awards and award shows. If there's an R&B category, there's like this disconnect. They'll put a Black artist who like low-key makes pop music, or they nominate a Black artist who made a pop song and it's in the R&B section. And as an R&B listener, I'm like, but like, we weren't talking about that, right? Like, he barely even makes R&B music. This isn't an R&B song, but somehow they're put into the category. Kind of taking away from artists that make that particular style of music, who specialize in R&B, who that is who they are to the very core. And even when we talk about art, very passionate about art forms and preserving that, we have to make sure that we understand that versatility can exist within Black people in music as well. And this is not just an idea that I'm trying to say to people who are not Black, to Black people as well. There's a lot of Black people who believe that we all should do one thing, or if we do something that's out of the norm, that's doing white people stuff. And it is important to understand that we should be able to be versatile, right? And I mentioned this in actually one of my videos talking about Black culture and respecting that. a lot of music that we listen to, a lot of popular styles have roots in Black creation or were created directly by Black people. So the fact that we are only represented really in 2 forms of music is kind of sad and frustrating, because I know that there's artists out there that exist that can give that, but they're confined to a box. A comparison to this is K Michelle, and one of the episodes of Love and Hip Hop. I know, I used to watch that show. She is from the South. She sings R&B. She has a huge voice. She decided she wanted to go over into the country music lane because she could sing country music too. But as a Black woman, I mean, of course there was racism going on there, but as a Black woman, people didn't take her seriously, or she was told that she wouldn't be taken seriously, because that's not what country looks like. She's not what country looks like. Even though country music was technically created by Black people. So even if there's artists who try to flip it, Beyonce has even dabbled in Daddy's Lessons. She performed at the Country Music Awards, and I think that there were some people complaining about that. Like, she needs to stay over where she is, stay in her lane. How you gonna tell Beyonce to stay in her lane though? Like, you see what I'm saying? Now, to connect this to my life and to make this make more sense to you guys, as a dancer, I say this in every video, but I know there's a lot of viewers who are seeing me for the first time. As a dancer who has done every style from ballet to jazz to hip hop to flamenco, I'm a versatile dancer, and I pride myself. I would find when I would do ballet and I would go into auditions and ballet spaces, which are predominantly white, I would feel like the outcast, and sometimes I would feel like I was looked at differently or less than. I wasn't supposed to be there. There's some people who believe that Black girls can't do or should not do ballet. And whether that is said verbally or whether it is just said through the environment, that was a message that I felt several times. And on the other token, there's also a stereotype that as a Black person or as a Black dancer that you have to be a hip-hop dancer. Oh, you must be a hip-hop dancer. You've got to be a hip-hop dancer, right? And it's like, I can do that too, but don't get it twisted. Like, that's not what I'm known for. That's not even my strongest style. But that is an example of what I am talking about here today. Let's talk about award shows. The Grammys. I did my research, but I used to watch the Grammys some years. Award shows just aren't the same anymore. Categories that Black artists are put into are Best Progressive R&B Album, Urban Contemporary Album, and Best Traditional R&B. So you guys see that these breakdowns of these categories are made for R&B artists, but if artists get dubbed in the main section, like quote unquote, for instance, Beyonce has been dubbed so many times at award shows, it's ridiculous. Particularly a Black artist, you can just throw them in one of these 3 categories and be appeased. Even though some of these artists' music very well cross over into the pop section, can very well cross into a country section, should very well be nominated for Album of the Year. And of course, case by case. I'm not saying every Black artist is not represented or given their flowers in some way, shape, or form. That's not what I'm saying. Somebody would hit me with, well, Michael Jackson. Because Michael Jackson was known as the king of pop, and he was an example, and I love Michael Jackson. And he was able to do so many different styles. And even though there are exceptions to the rules of people who have been able to live that versatile dream, that's not always the reality. We also talked about, I briefly mentioned, like at the VMAs, they'll nominate Black artists into the R&B category who aren't really R&B artists. As an R&B listener, nobody was talking about that as an R&B track or record. For instance, I believe The Weeknd Blinding Lights won Best R&B at the VMAs. I don't know about you, but Blinding Lights, I don't really consider that an R&B song. That's not an R&B song. Okay. Now, does The Weeknd make R&B music? Hell yeah. But that song specifically was not an R&B song. And I think some artists get probably a little frustrated when they're purposeful in their influence and purposeful in where they want a song to kind of land, and then you just totally disregard that.
We just be in pop. Why can't it just, you know what I mean? So I felt like half of me feels like the rap nomination was a backhanded compliment. Like,
like, we're gonna put you in the R&B. That's not an R&B song. The nominations are not consistent with the culture. I've seen several times where these artists are nominated for like best art, like hip hop rap song, and it's like nobody's listening to that. But nobody was listening to that. Oh, there's some white artists in history of music that have had a certain luxury to be able to kind of cross over and be both. Justin Timberlake is a great example of this. Justin Timberlake built his career singing pop, but also I would say that he fairly had R&B influences even early on in his career, but definitely early 2000s. Now, he has had the luxury of having a career where he can genre hop and he can be celebrated for what he does. When Justin went solo, JT did his solo thing. A lot of his music was heavily R&B influenced, and he was embraced. Like, he was embraced. The R&B influence was embraced by Black people, white people. People just like JT's music. And think about it later as time kind of went on and came back, did his album that was like an R&B album. And whatever he recently has dropped has been like a pop, like country. I don't even know what the hell it is. But I believe he won some accolades and some chart topping and some charting with that stuff, and he's able to kind of switch gears. And I think the artists should be able to do that respectfully, right? Especially if you're entering like an R&B or a hip hop realm where a lot of Black artists are disenfranchised anyways. Like, a lot of the times we're not really respected or given the opportunities in other genres. So this is really what we have. So I understand that. Now, somebody who I love very dearly, who I have to mention, is Ariana Grande. Has been honestly making R&B music since she dropped Yours Truly. Yours Truly to me is a mostly R&B album, heavy R&B. I wouldn't even really consider it pop that much. But depending on the masses, what the mass wanted Ariana to be, what the industry wanted Ariana to be, was like the pop princess that fit the narrative. And people wanted to shove her into the pop box so much. And people didn't want to accept that she's an R&B artist. And I still think that she does more R&B than she does pop music. A lot of people who haven't been listening to her music for long saw Seven Rings and saw what she's been recently doing and are like, wait a minute, like, who does this girl think she is? But Ariana has been doing R&B, but the music that gets the most attention is pop. Or if a song does get mainstream recognition and it has R&B influence, it's still considered pop. People have been talking about Chloe and Halle's Do It, and is that a pop song? I think that song's a little more R&B, but considering what some white artists do, even with a lot of white artists taking the R&B and hip-hop influence directly, and it's still being able to be called pop, why is it that when Black artists kind of dabble into that middle realm, it's always having to stay over on the R&B side? Are you with me? An overarching thought just about why this happens and how it happens. I really think it also depends on who's your audience. It kind of catapults you into whatever lane that you might be in. And that makes me wonder, like, audience-wise, how does that shift how the industry values you, who looks at your music, how they allow you to exist in the industry? Like, if you think about it, for artists who have primarily Black audiences, people might automatically cast that to, okay, well, that's their lane. They like them. Black people like them, so that's their lane. They can stay over there, right? So it really depends, but I think audience might have some to do with how artists are allowed to, like, be in different spaces. yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk that out on camera because it's something I've noticed, and as an artist myself, I've experienced the frustrations of being put inside of a box based off of, unfortunately, skin color and what preconceived notions and generalizations of what you should be able to do or what you should be doing. So I wanted to talk about that, and that's all I had to say. I talk a lot. Please like, comment down below what's your take on this conversation, and hit that sub button. Let's get to 1.5K. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.